Hi, my name is Blake, and I'm here to share with you my direct experiences and my understanding of the knowledge that I've come into contact with that resonates with me and helps me to understand my truth for my own evolving sense of self. Today we're going to talk about how you can navigate a spiritual awakening and how that spiritual awakening plays into your own journey and your own evolving sense of self. So to start with, when we look at how we can understand our journey within this life and what you are starting to understand, we have to look at what a spiritual awakening is, or what it at least can be. And for us to do that, we have to look at the meaning of an awakening. We have to look at how that meaning applies in our lives, and how that direct experience of whatever it is that you are likely going through is changing what and who you understood yourself to be in comparison to who you are and who you could see yourself becoming, so to speak. Now, what I would consider a meaning of an awakening experience, okay, I look at it in different ways. What I would actually call it a series of awakenings. And quite often that initial spiritual awakening, as we so term it, is quite often the one which brings us into the present moment and shifts something that we can't always explain. It creates a change from who we understood ourselves to be and steps us into something that is more present, that is more alive, and understands the greater gestalt of what it is. Even if our conscious brain, even if our linear thoughts can't comprehend what is going on, there is that shift that allows us to step into that something greater. Now, when I talk about a series of awakenings, is because the term spiritual awakening is largely overused and represents a lot of different things in our society as we understand it now. And an awakening steps us out of the unconscious into the conscious. And it peels off layers of who we understood ourselves to be, and again, of who we are stepping into becoming. And I wholeheartedly believe that those layers come off in pieces, and sometimes one layer can bring what we might understand in the moment as and what the experience of what we're going through as quite a profound shift. And it truly awakens us up from who we were into who we are becoming. But we go through these shifts, these steps in different points of our lives. And it is that series of awakenings that we move through and navigate through that allow us to consciously shed those layers of the old self, the unconscious, those that don't serve us. Now, if you truly are coming into this, if you're watching this video, there's a good chance that you are going through different experiences that you can't comprehend. Because when we allow ourselves to step into that space, which is an awakened space, we are moving through through a set of experiences that we can no longer comprehend, no longer explain. And if you are going through a hard time right now, if you are finding yourself going through something which you may consider, to create the terminology, the dark night of the soul, you have to allow yourself space. Allow yourself space to realize that the dark night is the resistance of the self that no longer serves you. The dark night is that space of the unconscious. And it is that space of letting go and allowing it to fall away is where we can actually move through into that new sense of self. And ultimately that old self, that unconscious self, it's just layers and layers of programming, it's layers and layers of conditioning, it's layers and layers of old patterns and old ways of being that no longer serve us. And it's up to us to be able to move through that old conditioning and to let it go, to let it become what it wants to, and which is to ultimately be recycled, because it's energy, and it's stagnant energy that doesn't want to be caught in the cycle anymore, because ultimately it's yourself which is here. It's yourself. It's just, when I talk about the self, it's the soul. The soul is knows that you, who you understand yourself to be, is ready to evolve, is ready to grow, is ready to become something greater than what you understand yourself in the present. And your attachment to those old patterns is what's going to hold you in that. And it's because those old patterns need to die. Those old patterns need to become something else. They need to be expressed into a new way of being. And you, as you understand yourself to be, is entirely different to who you are. And that is the awakening process. And who you are is the truth. And who you are becoming is that in-between state in which you are letting go of what you are not to step into what you are. And the I am presence of all that is, the I am presence of all that is within the present moment, is all that you need to be able to understand your awakening. But as we move along in this journey, we quite often do not allow ourselves to step into the present moment where the I am rests, where the now and the consciousness of your soul, your being, of God, of Source is. And we have to shed our layers bit by bit, because letting go of the whole and letting go of the form, the stories, the built personality, everything that's made you you to this point in your life, it's too hard to let go of all of that all at once, quite for most people on this journey of awakening, because it's the ego trying to hold on to itself. It's your form of identity of who you have built yourself up to be, that you cannot let go of. That's why quite often it's a series of awakenings, and it's a series of shedding the false self and stepping into the true self. And that takes time. And it's something that in this world, in the earth as we understand it, this playground of learning, that the time that it takes for us to shed those layers is the learning that we need to go through in our soul's development. And quite often, if we were to shed all those layers of the false self and step into the truth of who we are, then we wouldn't be able to learn the lessons that we are here to learn. And it is that dance between the false self, the egoic self, and the true self, and what I would then term the sacred self, that gives us that experience and gives God and Source that experience, the universe, whatever you want to call it. You don't have to have a name or an understanding of something greater, yet at the same time you know that for whatever reason you've been drawn here, whatever the awakening process is, you know there is something greater than what you have understood yourself to be. That is the experience that you are going through, or you have been through, that has brought you to where you are here right now. And that shedding of those layers, that shedding of the old self, is just paramount to the learning of who Source, God, the greater aspect of yourself is, and needs to go through those experiences to expand and to understand itself more and more. And that is, perhaps as I understand it, one of the purposes of our existence, of your existence, is to go through these experiences, to expand, not only to understand itself, but to experience itself for what it is within our own understanding of the earth and the world that we find ourselves on. So my biggest advice for you, if you are finding yourself in this period perhaps where you are struggling to navigate this life, is firstly, just breathe and relax, okay? If you are really in a place which is struggling, then my advice to you would be to find a practice in which you can get yourself centered, okay? Get yourself grounded, because ultimately you are in this space of expansion. You're in a space of expansion, yet at the same time, your mind, the ego, is fighting and resisting this expansion. So for you to be able to find your center, find your peace, find your grounding is paramount to, it's practically all that is necessary for you to navigate your existence and this journey of your awakening. The more you can let go of your linear thinking mind, the more you can just allow the process, and you recognize that outside of your thoughts, outside of your emotions, outside of form and the creation and your projection, is your true self, and is the depth of the lessons that are there for you to learn. So a good grounding practice would be meditation, and the simplest meditation would be following the breath. Because our breath is our connection here between the spiritual and the physical. And is that source of connection that allows us to bridge the gap between the unconscious and the conscious, understanding and lack of understanding, between form and formless. And anyone can meditate. Anyone can bring themselves into the space of being. And everyone struggles with it. And if you've tried meditation before and you've said, no, it's not for me, then that's your ego speaking. That's the resistance from your thoughts, from your emotions. And that is the fear that is created from your ego, that is resisting your ability to become and step into your true self. Yeah. And your ego and your thoughts and your emotions, which are not you, are powerful enough to make your existence feel like they are you. And your thoughts, your ego will do everything within its power to stop you from healing yourself, from growing, from being, and recognizing, realizing, and remembering your true self, and remembering your connection to Source, to God, to the I Am, to the Creator, to the Great Spirit, whatever name you want to call it. Your ego, your lower mind, is there to stop that. And, you know, quite often it is, people will say it's there because it is there to protect you. It's there to keep you safe. And on one level, this is very much true. And people often relate it, to the idea that in much simpler times, in perhaps a time where there's a lot more danger prevalent, then our ego would be what we would have used to navigate dangerous situations, because it is this sense of ego that ultimately keeps us safe, and it will guide us towards actions which serve our preserve our sense of self and help us survive. I don't believe that. I think I definitely did. Perhaps I do and I don't. It's important to know that the more you travel down this journey, your beliefs will change and your understanding will change. But the ego is that lower mind and the attachment to the thoughts, which is your perception, which is what forms your reality through past experiences, through projection to the future. And I believe that when we were perhaps in those dangerous situations, which we still come across now, of course, but we engage that sense of presence, that sense of true self that guides us through those situations. And it is that connection with the ego, which is the ego is the attachment to the form, and the form is the physical form of the earth is what I'm talking about. And these two elements together is what would have guided us. It's not just the ego in and of itself in those situations. But anyway, the idea is that now that the dangerous situations are over, so to speak, as we live in this cushy lifestyle of the modern 21st century, our ego now has the space to run rampant, yet it still has the idea of keeping us safe. I believe it is the lack of presence of the true self, of the presence of the present awareness, the lack of awareness of the now moment that is stopping us from connecting with the higher mind and the higher ego to allow us to navigate our lives. So the more we allow ourselves to step into the thought of the past, of the thought of the future, which is what we live in most of our lives, the more we are stopping ourselves from living in the presence of the true self, which is in that awareness of the ever-present moment in which our truth is contained, in which our true self is. Anything outside of that present moment is just a false identity, because our existence is just that movement of experience within that ever-present moment. And when we attach ourselves to the idea of a past experience, whether that is a past experience which is emotionally charged, or whether it is a future projection of what could be, which can still very much be emotionally charged, it is not the reality or the truth of what is present in the moment, which is the experience of all that is. It is the experience of your true self. So the more you can step into a practice that will ground you and keep you here in presence, the more you can let go of those forms, the more you can let go of what isn't serving you, the more you can allow yourself to step into that space of what is. And that is the presence of becoming, that is the presence of being. Becoming is the process of coming to being. And that is what allows us to truly navigate the spiritual awakenings, the awakening moments that we go through, the layers that we shed. Of course, your mind, your ego, your thoughts, your emotions, which are tied with your thoughts, will stop you from stepping into that space of being, stepping into the presence of true awareness. And that is one of the battles of your awakening process that you will need to go through. Ultimately, because without that presence of being, you can't find the truth of love, the truth of love that is the state that is all around us and is. And it is through the connection, acceptance, remembrance of the state of love the state of the being of I am, the being of your true self, that you can truly start to navigate your experience and navigate your life in truth. Because outside of the connection to the present moment, it is a falsification of what is. It is a projection of a past or a projection of a future that doesn't hold the totality of all that is within that presence. And that's not to say that you can't walk, that you can't then walk through your life and fulfill your goals, fulfill what it is that you feel called to. But it is actually that you can cut through that the projections of what you feel you want and what you feel you need, what you need. I'm gonna have to stop doing these quotation marks. But you can actually cut through it and get to the truth of what your soul wants, what God wants for you. And you can recognize that all of what your soul wants for you, what God wants for you, is what you want for you, because you are your soul and God. You are the I am in the form and the formless. You are that essence of God, of Source, that is going through this experience to understand itself. And that's not to go into a egoic trip of saying that I am God and I am all that is, therefore, it's done, we do what we want, But it's that catch-22. It's probably the ultimate spiritual catch-22 that we have and that we face, is understanding the truth of who we are, and truly understanding the truth of who we are, and not then getting caught into the egoic trip of who you feel you understand you are, because that's just another mind-made trip for you to go down. There are more practices in which you can understand and step into the grace of who you are. It's not just meditation and the breath, although those are the simplest core exercises, core practices that we can come into the truth of who we are. We can use other practices that ultimately our soul will start to bring naturally, gravitate towards us in our lives. And a lot of these practices help us embody the spiritual and the material, the spiritual and the physical. And they are embodiment practices. So perhaps you feel called to singing, you feel called to dancing, perhaps you feel called to creating in art. All forms of creativity and creative energy are in forms of embodiment of the spiritual and the physical. It is the space of recognizing that your creativity comes from that higher place. Excuse me, it comes from that higher connection to Source, and you are essentially allowing it to come through. You're allowing it to flow without resistance from the ego, without resistance from the lower mind. And that flow of creativity is your space to recognize and embody the spiritual and the physical, the embodiment of the true self, which is the connection between both those, of of duality and non-duality. It is the form and formless. So I will leave it there. Perhaps I will do a more structured video which will allow us to explore how we can navigate it and give you actual tools in which you can use in a more deeper way. Because it's easy for me to just say, oh yeah, just meditate. Yeah, just breathe. Yeah, follow your creativity, blah, blah, blah. But it's, before I leave, it's what I am starting to realize and what I am starting to come into understanding is that we have to truly connect mind, body and spirit, mind, body and soul. We have to allow ourselves to do the work to let go of our emotions, let go of our connection to our thoughts and our past perceptions of reality that are no longer serving us, and step into a space in which we can cultivate the truth of who we are. And we do that through harnessing and practicing and connecting to the higher mind, allowing the lower mind to dissipate. And within that space of the mind, we have to do the work to let go of our emotions. We have to let go of those thoughts that don't serve us. We have to let go of those ideas that have formed our reality, that are unconscious and false to the truth of who we are. And at the same time, we have to do the work on our body, the vessel, the being, the temple in which we have come into form with. And it is then here that we can actually step into the connection of the truth of our soul, the truth of who we are. And once we allow ourselves to create the balance between these different elements, we can step into what I would call the sacred self, which is that dance between the higher mind and the true self. It's the dance between the higher ego and the truth of who we are. And that's how we can start to navigate not only our awakening, but our unfolding path that is there before us in the ever-present moment. So I hope that's helped in some way, and I hope it hasn't boggled your mind too much. And if it has, just let go of that. Because it's just that attachment to mind that is not allowing us to see the truth of what is. It's the space of the heart in which we have to start to feel and navigate our way forwards with. So have a beautiful day. It's near the end of the day with me, and I will speak soon. And yeah, please give a like, subscribe if you like what you're hearing. The more I start to speak and allow myself to talk, the more I'm sure I will start to weave my own path through these videos, in which I can find the best way to share the knowledge as it comes through of my path and my experiences. So yeah, please reach out, share your love and your being, and we will see you soon. Thank you.